This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Wow, the war is over. We're getting off our ships. We're going down to split up the loot. We're gonna be opening treasure chests, seeing what's in there, and splitting it up. Today, we're gonna be talking about Spoils of War. This is a 3 to 5 player dice and bluffing game from Arcane Wonders. And so let's take a look, let's see how it's played, and I'll see you on the other side. At the beginning of the game, everyone is going to get a cup with a certain amount of dice, depending on the amount of players. They're going to get a player shield that they'll use, some money, a challenge token, and the starting player will be the Viking Chief. The game is played over 9 different rounds, with 3 rounds being the beginning, and the middle, and then the end, and things will get more powerful and more interesting as the game goes on. Each round, a certain amount of cards will come out depending on the amount of players. And you'll have different things like armor and jewelry and weapon. And at the bottom right, you'll see how much money they're worth at the end of the game. And some face down cards might come out because they have a crystal on it. That means that they're a special ability. They're an artifact type. So this is all the spoils that you're basically fighting over for this round. Now, money is secret in the game behind your shield, and everybody will roll their dice and keep them secret under their cup. So let's say under my cup, we look and I have a lot of 2s. Now, I would be hiding this from other players, but I have a lot of 2s. Let's say I was starting the bidding. Maybe I'll say 4 2s. Or I don't even have any 5s. Maybe I'd say 4 5s, trying to bluff to make people think I have 5s. And this would continue clockwise until somebody says challenge, because when it's your turn, you can either up the bid or challenge. For example, if the bid came to me and it was 4 5s, I can either say 4 and increase the quantity, saying from a 5 to a 6, or I can increase the number of dice. So if it was 4 5s, I could say 5 2s, for example. As long as you increase the die amount or the quantity of dice, you can increase the bid. Or if you don't think the last bid is right, you can challenge. So let's say someone bid and said 4 5s, and I said challenge because it was my turn. Now at this point, I would need to bid. Now, I'm going to be on the challenge side. If I was not on the challenge side, I would be on the declare side saying, I think there is that many out there. But in this case, I am on the challenge side. Anytime you bid, everybody has to bid, by the way, not just the 2 people involved in the challenge, and everyone has to bid at least 5 on one side. So let's say I'm pretty sure I'm gonna bid this. I would hold my hand over this so nobody sees it, and I would put it out in front of everybody, keep my hand over it until everyone has it. So this is me, I was the challenger. Once everybody had their bet secret, they would all let up. So we see that the next person also agreed with challenging, but they only bid 5. This player agreed that there was that many, said 5, and this player was the one I was challenging. They were really sure that there was at least that many, and they said 10. Then everyone would reveal their dice. Now let's say it looked like this. We were looking for 4 5s. I challenged this player. I didn't have any. This player who also challenged only had 1. This player only had 1. And this player had a lot, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are at least 4 5s. So the losers would lose their money. This would go to the bank. The winners would get their money back, and the one who bid the most would become the chief for the next round, and they'll get to be the first one to get the spoils. Now, the Viking chief would get to choose 3 first, and then the other players, in this case there's only 1 that also bid correctly, would get to select 2. Now let's say the chief took these 3 because you're trying to build sets. I'm going to go over the scoring in just a moment, but that's pretty much it. You would start up another round and continue doing it as I showed. And the game would end after you've played the 9 rounds. Now at the end of the game, you're going to count your points. It's basically gold. You're going to get gold points for all of the cards that you've gotten. You're going to have gold for all your leftover gold, and you're going to collect points for sets. Now a partial set is the same type, so we have 3 armors, and they're all different. If you have 3 different of the same set, you get 6 gold as a partial set. If you have a full set, which is all 4 different things from the same category, well then you'll get 12 points. It doubles in value for getting the 4th of that. You can also get a set called the Conquerors Hoard. This is one of each of the different types: Dragon Egg, Artifact, Weapon, Jewelry, and Armor. And by the way, the ones that are used for sets of each type can also be used to be a Conquerors Hoard, which is also 8 gold. Then whoever has the most points is the winner. Now let's look at those special abilities from the artifacts. Now remember, these artifacts are face down when you're getting them from the spoils, so you're not sure what they are until you get them, and they stay face down until you use them. And they allow you to do varying things, like peeking at other players' dice, and stealing bids from other people, or changing a die to another side, or taking one from the remaining treasure, and things like that. All right, well, there's Spoils of War. Now let me set the expectations right on my perspective of where I'm coming from in this review. First of all, I was extremely excited to have this game come out because, and it made my top 10 most anticipated games of the year. And why did it do that? Well, this game essentially, what I think it's trying to do is it's trying to take the good old-fashioned party game of Liar's Dice and turn it into something that's more interesting, more variability, more things to think about, make it basically a gamer's version of Liar's Dice with a cool theme, good components, and things like that. And I love Liar's Dice. I grew up playing that game all throughout when I was a kid. Just recently I reviewed the new version of that just came out, and I think it's still one of the best little simple party games out there. To see this, to see someone take something that's a classic, turn it into a gamer's game, this seems to be a trend going on lately, and I really love that. So that's why, that's my perspective of where I'm coming from. So let's talk about the things that I liked about the game. The set collection aspect of the game is great. I love it. I love the fact that you're trying to get different things of different kinds, like jewelry and armor and things like that, and it gives you a focus. And when you win the bid, you're trying to gather the right things, and the choices there are interesting, and it's really big for points at the end. And I like that aspect of it. I liked how as the game goes on, it had sort of an arc so that the cards are getting better and they're becoming more powerful, things like that. And I also love that when you challenge someone, it's not just the two people that are involved, where one of them are going to lose a die or something like that, like in Liar's Dice, where in this case, everybody's involved. You must bid at least 5. So even when someone across the table from you is getting challenged and you have nothing to do with it, you do have something to do with it. You're involved in every challenge, and I really like that aspect of the game. But there's plenty of things I didn't like about the game. Let's start with a few different things. One of the things, again, I think because this thing was supposed to be, or trying to be, or in my mind I wanted it to be like a gamer's version of Liar's Dice, there's a lot of things that I think it did that made it worse than Liar's Dice. They took a lot of the fun out of the game for me and for the people that I've played this with that also really like Liar's Dice and or Perudo. Number one is I did not like that everybody had the same quantity of dice. And I didn't like how the dice stayed the same, where every round the calculations became the same. It wasn't very interesting. You roll a dice, you've got a certain amount, you take the total dice, divide it by 6, and that's basically statistically on average how many there will be, but the dice don't change over the course of the time. So the bidding became a little bit more mundane than I would have liked. I really like the tension of as you lose dice and lose bids in the original Liar's Dice, you get less dice, so you have less information, so it's harder for you to gauge, it's harder for you to bluff. I love that aspect of it. That's actually the most fun about Liar's Dice, and they took it out of this game. So unfortunately, they took one of the most fun parts out of the game that I loved out of this. So I really wish they would have changed the quantity of dice over time. Also, the dice itself, it felt like there were too many of them, especially with 3 or 4 players. I mean, 10 or 8 dice. It's just too many, honestly, because you don't really have, one of the most fun things to do in Liar's Dice is to bluff with something you don't have. Well, you almost never have, a die type that you don't have because there's so many dice there. Similar to some of those abilities where it's like, hey, everybody has to show us your lowest and your highest die. Almost everybody always had a 1 and a 6. Well, that's not that interesting. There's just too many dice. And it compounds with not having, and everyone keeping the same amount of dice every turn. It's just, it just wasn't fun for me in that part. I wish there was a way to track the bids a lot of times. What'd you say? Four what? 4 4s? And you said 5? And it's not that hard, but this game encourages a lot of chatter, a lot of fun stuff, and it's really easy to lose track of the bids. I wish they would have had a board or tokens or something really easy to keep track of what the bid is, like Liar's Dice does. It's a little minor quibble there. But, in the end, I just really felt like this was a good idea, and the idea itself is what got me excited about it. But I felt that the actual execution of it took most of the fun parts of Liar's Dice out of this, added some things that were cool, but in the end, it was disappointing for me. I also felt like the variant in the rules where you cannot jump higher than the amount of players. So if there's 4 players, you can't go higher than 4 somethings, and then everyone else has increased it by 1. I felt like, and it might have just been the groups I played this with, I felt like that was almost a must-have rule, because otherwise you got people that are jumping up to like 6 5s on the first one, the next person's like maybe challenging, and half the people aren't even getting a bid, and they're not even involved except for the bidding part. So I really feel like the variant, which should really be like the rule. So anyway, overall, great production, great idea, had some interesting set collection ideas, but unfortunately they took the parts that were the most fun of the game that it's based off of and took them out. And so I can't recommend the game because I didn't enjoy it. And that is Spoils of War.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com.